Welcome back, y'all. All right, so let's give the Bulls a fighting chance here. Welcome back, y'all. All right, let me go find this freaking lighter and grab my eye drops.
The amount of liquidations at 73 is alarming.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. Because it's what the chart's showing us. Right? It's starting to put in a bearish channel. If it would have put in the bearish channel before it put in the W, right, then I would have drawn it first. But you got to play the chart that you're given. That way you know if this thing breaks out, if this W breaks out and fails, it wasn't because it was a failed W, it's because you put in that bearish channel. Either way, the overwhelmingly dominant pattern here is the bullish channel that we're looking at. Right? One small deviation out of the bottom, but most touches. So in that context, the W makes sense. I just don't think we have a good chance to get above and sustain. Which is why I'm just looking at the W. Remembering too that it's okay to watch trades without playing them. I mean, to watch patterns without playing them. You start to get a bit of a sixth sense after a while of the ones that you can sort of get your hopes up for and the ones you can't. But to be fair, right, stopping volume candle didn't invalidate. got up above your EMAs, came back, held structure, popped back up above your EMAs. You have a bit of a substructure in your type 2 itself, right, where it's not only your type 2, but your type 2 at a type 2. But like I said, remember the flag that's there. This is your, let me put it like this. There's the last vector above us, right, from this range. Market maker would love to clear that vector. He would love even more than clearing the vector to not have to pay for any of it. This W makes you willing to go and pay for that vector. But when you draw your bear flag, you see how you can do both? Price could come up, reject again, pop up, hold, clear that vector, and then just do that. All very nice and neat.
So I was looking at this coin. I'm not going to say which one. And I asked AI why it was up today. And it told me that there's a newfound interest in NFTs.
Yeah.
So I just laughed and shorted it immediately.
That's funny. I gotta run out to the car. I think I left it in the car. I'll be back.
Pump it up, pump it up. Oh, I need a short. I need a 75 real quick.
What up, what up, what up? Bro, I can't keep up, Neve. I literally had to cut myself off from doing anything else to the course. Legit. But there's so much shit stacking up that I think as soon as Cypher School's done, I'm immediately starting on the next one, bro. It's like, if you want to stay on top of it, it's hard as hell, bro. Like every day something new drops. I don't know what got in Google's pants, but they're losing their mind with all these updates. It's just things that make the workflow faster, right? It's like every 3 or 4 days, a step is cut out of the workflow. Nah, I know. I'm chilling. It's I'm not explaining. It's not like work. It's like exciting. Fun. Bro, I put together a whole damn slide deck of my I put together a whole slide deck of my research yesterday on the ceasefire shit. It took me like 3 minutes. That's what I'm liking it for, because I'm just using it as the brain. Right? And then you got that direct link to your drive. And then if you keep the files updated on your drive, it automatically updates. It like automatically updates the brain. So it's just super convenient for what I'm doing anyways, which isn't really like intensive shit, you know what I mean? So what I like the most is that I can give it my data and then I don't have to worry about it hallucinating. The next thing I want to work on are one page dApps. That new Google what is it, Gemini 3.1 Flash, the voice module that they brought in, that it's crazy, bro. That shit just literally like replaced receptionists. Unfortunately, I hate to say it. Zero lag, right? You talk back and forth, zero lag. It's got longer context memory, so it can deal with like support calls, you know, complaints. Yeah, I had to run to the store. It wasn't in the car. I went and got some shit I needed. There's a pile of lighters somewhere in my house, but I just haven't stumbled upon it apparently. My ex had 2 ferrets, and I don't know if you've ever had ferrets, but ferrets like to steal shit. And it was just like this, bro. Lighters kept disappearing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just, you know me, just always losing lighters. And then we moved the couch one day, and there was a pile of lighters, and for some reason they used to go and steal her They used to open her box in the bathroom and steal the tampons. So it was like a little hut of tampons full of lighters. Yeah, just hoarding, bro. Just like for what? I don't know. But those are definitely, yeah, they're definitely some thieves. Parrots are cool though. No matter what you do, you can't get rid of that smell though. That's the problem. Yeah, we got class tomorrow. Got a meeting at like 1:30, but as soon as I get out of that, oh, a lot of people that got their family roll when we made the switch, so that's good. That means that there's going to be tons more people that can actually see the course now. I hear you, bro. Someone told me they've been catching up on the they just downloaded the podcasts and they've been listening to them at the gym. And then they're watching the classes when they get home. What is it, Neve? You looked into it? What do you got to do for it? You're gonna improve your English. You're just gonna end up sounding like me and Bobby. I don't know if that's a W or nah. Bobby's a mischievous little one, but he pays attention in class. That's for sure. He said, "I'm not going back." Like I hear you, Bobby. I'm sure that went over well. As he should be. Take the boy out of Brooklyn, but you can't take the Brooklyn out of the boy. Everybody's holding their breath, bro. Nobody knows what to think right now. What you're currently looking at is no reason to buy, but not enough reason to sell. I told y'all before all of this happened, I was like, this ceasefire has been hyped up so much. That's why I asked you. I was like, even if this ceasefire goes perfect, right? Like, are we expecting it just, people just start just smashing money into Bitcoin again because the war's over? Like, we can't forget that the war didn't start this bear market. Right? So it's not gonna end it. Now, will it give us a couple plays? Could it, could it give us some spicy moves up if everything works out right? Yeah, maybe, but I knew it was going to be an issue last night when the Iranians released their copy of the ceasefire in Farsi, and it had that line in it about accepting enrichment. That's why I had to end up trying to deep dive and see what was going on. I just couldn't trust the news. Right, I had to go into that little infographic you saw me put together had like 470 something sources. What do you mean the tolls? I mean, I didn't hear BTC. I heard that they're taking the tolls in Chinese yuan. But that would be interesting. That would be interesting. This is a play for the world reserve currency, y'all. This is a play on the 500-year cycle. I don't think it's going to be the play that actually turns the wheel for good, but it's just an attempt, right? It's one of many. But I hope that after going through that, like chapter 1.5, you look at this and you see it. You sort of see it for what it is. Or for what I think it is, whatever. But yeah, I'm not mad at that. Pay me in Bitcoin. Shit. I mean, hey, from what I understand from the ceasefire, we've given them the permission, which is kind of funny because they never asked for the permission from the first place. But we've given them the permission to control the strait and collect tolls, right? As long as nobody is turned away. If I was the UAE, what I would do is immediately start digging a massive trench that diverts that strait through my country That's what I would start doing. Massive earth moving project. You can't get them to stop screwing with the straight, then you got to move the traffic. The problem is the best place to do it. Yeah, they got the money to do it. The problem is the best place to do it would be like right through the middle of Dubai, and you can't do that, you know? But like Dubai sits right on that little outcrop. I don't know. To me, what it smells like is we made the deal that we had to make to get it done. And overnight, when people looked at the details of it, they're really pissed. And now we're sort of backtracking to save face. Bro, they gave them like, oh, not having to get rid of the Houthis. I mean, let me show you. I've got the list of their shit here, of the requests on both sides. So these are the 15 points on our side. Dismantle nuclear capabilities. Iran must fully dismantle all existing nuclear weapons and infrastructure. I mean, they took care of that with some of the bombing, but no nuclear weapons, a legally binding permanent commitment to never pursue nuclear weapons. They didn't get that. End of enrichment. They didn't get that. They got the opposite of that. Actually, they allowed a certain amount. All enriched uranium must be handed over and agreed on an agreed timetable. They didn't get that. Closed nuclear sites. They got that by bombing some of them. Right? They took them out of commission. Full International Atomic Energy Agency access. They did not get that. And proxy support means stop your support for the Houthis, and that they did not get that. Cease funding and arming, stop financial, military, logistical support for Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. They did not get that. Strait of Hormuz, the strait must be declared free maritime zone open to all international shipping. They didn't get that either. Defensive missiles only. Missile use must be limited strictly to national defense. Iran states that that's the only reason they used them in the first place. Sanctions relief, full lifting of U.S. nuclear-related economic sanctions on Iran. U.S. assistance in building monitored civilian-only nuclear energy program, blah, blah, blah. Ceasefire. These are the 10 that Iran wanted. Guarantee of non-aggression, a U.S. commitment to ensure no further acts of aggression against Iran. They got that for 14 days. Control over the Strait of Hormuz. Continued Iranian control over the strait, which includes imposing $2 million transit per ship to be shared with Oman. They got that for 14 days. Acceptance of enrichment rights. They got that for 14 days. Lift of primary sanctions and secondary sanctions. They got that. Terminate UN resolutions. They got that. Terminate International Agency, Atomic Energy Agency resolutions. They didn't get that. War reparations. They're getting full reparations. Troop withdrawal. We're getting that. End of regional hostilities. That's going to depend on how shit plays out. But for 14 days, Iran got all 10 of their asks. And now we woke up in the morning and said, no, we didn't say that. That's what it seems like. Just trying to look down the middle. You know what I mean? What they wanted versus what they got. Everything else is just spin and propaganda, whatever. Try to just boil it down to the facts. I mean, if that's really what you've been experiencing, Jay, I mean, I would stop coming back personally. Arrows on my chart to teach people how to create patterns and how to find measured moves. There's also invalidations on the chart. I don't know. I'd say the ratio is doing pretty well. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not over yet, right? It's a running tally. But getting the other side to agree to something when it comes to this type of shit is always looked at like either a win or a loss. You know? They're already calling it another taco trade. Excuse me. If you would have been here earlier, you would have heard somebody ask me if this could count as a W. The reason we drew it out was for them to be able to watch it and validate or play out. My TA hasn't changed for months. Yeah, you got it, Roko. More importantly, taking out the W, you could break that uptrend. The uptrend is the first sign that you're sort of losing trend, right? But you want to invalidate that type 2 entry. at that invalidation, you'd also be creating your M pattern. I appreciate that, bro. It means a lot. Nice, and you stayed in the dark zones. There's a way to have the best of both worlds. Cypher's not liking this price action. Is Brent worse than US oil? Oh shit. Yeah. So many gaps. Damn, that really looks bad on the daily. I see what you mean about the gap that we just left, though. I mean, that'd be a nice mean reversion play. Would take the gap, would take 50% of that vector. Right at the 50. Okay, let's see. I see. Same sort of deal, right? Almost exactly for US oil. I mean, exactly. 50% of the vector is right at the 50 on the 4 hour. So now we're going to have to do the math. If this actually plays out the way they're saying it's going to play out, how many ships make their way through the port every day times 200? I mean, times 2 mil Bitcoin per. Interesting. Bro, people don't talk about Iran when it comes to Bitcoin, but holy shit, have they been eaten for the past? You know, they were mining Bitcoin at like $3,000 Bitcoin cost, energy cost. 3,300 per Bitcoin, I think, was the rate before they took out their. They've got massive mining rigs out there, and the oil is dirt cheap. But they were saying that they're killing the environment because the oil that they have is like this dark sludge and they weren't refining it. They were literally just burning it raw to run miners. And now you're getting free Bitcoin just for letting somebody pass go. It's just to avoid sanctions. The same reason that Russia sort of went heavy into Bitcoin after they went into Ukraine. What I find interesting though is that they switched from taking Chinese yuan to taking Bitcoin. I've got to dig into that. I don't think that's just like a nothing decision. There's something behind that. All right, we broke the uptrend. Hell no. Probably just die of inhalation. I'm telling you, they said that shit was nasty. They said that after those miners got shut down, after the power plants got hit, that the skies over Iran literally cleared up. Like that's how bad it was. But then again, fog of war, who knows, bro? You hear all types of shit online right now. That was part of that was part of the ceasefire deal, though. The unfreezing of all their funds worldwide. They removed Type 1, Type 2 sanctions. Yeah, I know, right? I hear you, bro. I hear you. I was watching that moon thing the other day. I think it was at the point where they were the furthest that any human had ever been, right? And I was watching this live stream, and they're like, right now, I'm looking at part of the moon that nobody's ever seen. And then I look in the comments, and all I see is space is fake. Yo, the internet doesn't care, bro. The internet is so unserious. Like, space is fake. They got to you. Yeah, bro. The chat was crazy. Yep. I was like, damn, imagine you work your whole life to become an astronaut. You get put in a position where it's like you've always wanted to be there, further than any human's ever been, and you can still talk to your people down in on Earth, and you're trying to be all deep and shit, and they're just trolling you online. Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's another thing somebody was saying. They were like AI, obviously AI. Oh, my bad. Screw it. At this point, just believe what you want to believe, bro. Just make your life as entertaining as possible. We haven't invalidated yet, but yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, I try to ignore everything that people say. I just look for evidence of what's happening and then sort of work from there. Like, watch what people do and just ignore what people say. Somebody told me earlier I needed to stop watching the news. I was like, news? I wish. Shit. And sit down on the couch, watch the reporter say one or two things, and then feel like you know what's going on. Those were the good old days. Like 3 hours of research, and that's with AI helping, just to try to shuffle through the bullshit. You can't believe it from either side, right? That's what they're supposed to do. It's supposed to be a spin on both sides that kind of favors that side or the other. I don't know. I'm a firm believer that the truth always comes to light, but sometimes you got to look for it. You know, not just gonna be spoon fed. Still haven't invalidated him. It's not charging. Just remember that that whole cycle theory that we went through in class. Um, these governments are very aware of how things work. Like none of that shit is a mystery to them. So these moves that don't make sense to people, like why would we do this now? Why, you know? If you look at it in that light, in that context, it starts to make sense. It gets to the point where the only way you can make the money printer go burr is with war. Yeah, I think it was important to start there too. It's just all connected. Like you can see it in real time now when something happens on the big cycle and then oil gets affected immediately, right? Gold and silver start to move immediately. Like you can almost see that commodity wheel turning as that 500-year wheel starts grinding against it. We're at the lowest rate of home ownership since 1995. I was looking at yesterday. Right, with almost 1 billion more people from 95 till 2026. I don't think it's done, bro. I think commodities have one more run. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if gold sees a new all-time high. I'm not sure if the manipulation on silver will let silver see another all-time high. I'm not as confident, but I still am holding my silver position. They don't. They don't. And what they, I mean, I should show that video. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe tomorrow we'll have one of those teacher wheels the DVD player into the classroom moments. I saw a really good video the other day on housing, on how the housing and how we're starting to get that top. But they broke it down really well. The problem is that we have so many people that got in at really, really low rates during COVID that those people can't sell. Right? It makes, even if they hate their house, even if they're tired of it, like you literally, it makes no financial sense to get into another loan at immediately double the cost. Right? The difference between a $900 payment and a $2,000 payment. And there's no new homes being built, right? Because there's no demand. And if there is homes being built, they're being built on the higher level, right? For rich people. So it's like, yeah, they're saying even people that are financially viable to get loans, the difference between, remember we were talking about the difference between 2026 and 2008, right? 2008, people that shouldn't have loans, had houses, had 2 houses, 3 houses. Now it's the opposite. You've got people that are making good money, right? Have decent credit, but they can't take the loan because of the rates, right? They can't. They'd be spending, 60, 65, 70% of their income just on mortgage. So what they were talking about is that starter home, right? That small home, that people's first house, that 100,000, 150,000, $200,000 home, like that's gone. They don't even build that anymore. They stopped building it because there was no buyers. So the problem is right now is supply. There's plenty of houses, but the people that live in them can't sell them because they'd be screwing themselves on the rates that they have locked in already. And then the new houses are too expensive to afford from the people that, yeah, it's screwed up, bro. Yeah, that's the winner's curse. Exactly. This is the time where people start to FOMO, which is why I said, right? You start to look around and you start to be like, damn, I've got a family to start. So when the bank starts getting predatory and starts offering those loans that they shouldn't, you automatically take it because you feel like you don't have another option. And you get trapped into those loans right before it collapses underneath you. Nah, straight up, Jamal. Straight up. There's people that have homes right now on instruments that don't even exist anymore and will probably never exist again at rates that chances are we never see again. Unless something hits the fan. This energy crisis that we're having, I paid $5.15 per gallon today. You know how crazy that is? So I was watching this dude do a report on shipping, and he said um, that these oil tankers move across the ocean at about the speed of a bicycle, right? So there's tankers that left the strait that haven't gotten to where they're going yet. right? So there's countries that haven't seen that last tanker come in yet. Like we're one of them. You know, over the next month, we're gonna have those last tankers come in, but smaller countries specifically. And then there's that window of, you know, everything shut down. That's when shit's gonna start to hit the fan, and you're gonna start to see it spread out. I don't know if you guys remember, like 3 weeks ago when I started talking about shutdowns, like COVID style shutdowns, but energy based. Like that could be a real thing, and it'll start slow, right? It'll start with like travel restrictions, right? To conserve gas, it'll start with flight restrictions. You might have airports shut down. You might have driving restrictions, car curfews.
They start talking about rationing. That's when it gets bad.
Yeah, I mean it can happen. Most large countries, I think, will be insulated from that. I don't know if we'll ever see that here. I can't say I doubt it, but I don't know if we'll see that here. We shouldn't. All that Venezuelan crude that we got, we should be all right for a little while. But I'll tell you one thing: if it starts to get bad, that drill baby drill is gonna start looking better and better because it's in the ground. You know, not like we don't have it; it's in the ground. But this is the type of thing that applies pressure. You know, it's like now it's a national strategic, um, incentive that we start to become more energy independent. This shit is so tangled up, bro. Like the deeper you think about it, the more things start to, everything's so interconnected. Way above my pay grade. In Florida, we're used to like when we get hurricanes, you'll get rations on a regular basis. Where it'll say you can only get 5 gallons or whatever. But that's because it's the same thing, right? When we have hurricanes, it interrupts the supply chain. So you get a lag on the supply chain, and when you get a lag on the supply chain, gas stations start to ration so that they can, serve as many people as possible. Those refineries that got taken out too, right? They were talking about they're gonna need like 4 or 5 years to get back up to the full capacity. I say it all the time, but there is a point that you can get to where all of this stuff happens underneath you and your family. I'm not there yet. But there definitely is a point where all of this stuff happens and you look at it and you're like, yeah, it's screwed up, right? But it doesn't directly affect you and your ability to feed your family and and I think that's the goal, right? Not so that we can just forget about it, but even if you do want to be a certain person that creates change and does something about it, you need to get to that point first. Because how can you think about anybody else until your family's straight? You know what I mean? Like, once you get to that point, then you're free to, save the world if you want to. That's when having a good partner is important, bro. Straight up. You gotta understand that some months is gonna be Louis Vuitton months. Some months is gonna be ramen noodle months. Well, you don't realize how bad it is until you look outside the country. But yeah, the cost of living is ridiculous. Like we compare our cost of living in the United States against other states. Like, damn, Miami's stupid expensive compared to like Georgia, or New York is dumb expensive compared to you know Texas or something. But all of this shit is expensive compared to everywhere else. Unless you're trying to buy American shit. If you're in other countries trying to buy American shit, you're getting taxed crazy. That being said, though, I still wouldn't trade it. In a lot of places. Maybe I'm just institutionalized, but America got it for me. It's just like anything else, bro. Once you get down to the street level, to the people level, there's good people everywhere, bro. It's just at the tops that the same way that we don't like being judged by what like our leaders are doing on a personal level, we got to be careful not to do that shit to other people. Not gonna lie, leaving New York was hard at first, and I still miss it like crazy. But it made all the financial sense in the world, though. Not only is New York like really rough on crypto, but having no state income tax is a nice little bonus in Miami. And coming from New York, Miami doesn't seem as expensive as it seems like to everybody else. I guess there's a little bonus there too. Like I would have hated to come to Miami from like a small town. I mean, you got to think about it, bro. That's the belly of the beast, right? That's where legacy stomps and shit. That's their territory. So now they're down. You know what I mean? Now they're cool with it. Now everybody wants to take the orange pill. You'll see the rules in New York start to loosen up. But it's just like regular gangster shit, right? Like this is New York City. The stock market runs shit here. This is the only market that's gonna get any play. Now look at them. Yeah, straight up. My cousin was too. My cousin got in a fight at his graduation, and dude got hurt. Cousin ended up going to jail for it. When he got out, it was bad, bro. He used to eat over his food. super jumpy. I mean, if you think about the empire cycle, right? Like Michael Saylor likes to talk about coming into New York Harbor in the 1800s and being able to buy a block of New York City for $200 or $1,000 or whatever, right? So he always makes the example of, you know, what if you pulled up in the harbor and you didn't buy it, and then you came back in the 1900s and you saw what the price was, and you didn't buy it for that price either, and then you came back in the 2000s or the 2020s, right? But run that forward, like that's been true, right? That was true up till now. But run it forward another 100 years or 200 years from this point. It's like, you know, is there that much growth left? And that's my city. I love my city, but New York's gotten fat and bloated. I am a firm believer that if you can be Batman, you should always try to be Batman. I gotta go car shopping on Friday. Gonna find something nice for my mom's. They know, Jacob, at that level, they know, bro. That type of money, old money. And Michael Saylor's made his way into that crowd. Michael Saylor's not necessarily, he doesn't necessarily come from old money. But the way he thinks is generations ahead, right? Like he's thinking 20, 30 years ahead. These dudes are very, very aware of the rotations. Just think about it. Like he'll tell you himself. He said, Michael Saylor said he doesn't care about Bitcoin getting to $1 million, right? He cares about getting $10 billion from 2026 to 2036 safely. Like, that's the big draw. Being able to beat the basement for 10 years and not watch 20 billion turn to 10 billion, right? Or not watch a billion turn to 500 mil. She likes little cars, but I don't want to put her in something small. She wants a mini. She wants a mini convertible. And I'm like, bruh, like you come to my house and you bump into almost every wall just walking through the house. Like I want to put, like I want to put her in a tank, you know? I was thinking something safer, like maybe like a Volvo, like a S30 convertible or something like that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Muzzy. That or a SUV, right? Just put her in something big. Yeah, but it also has to be something that she could stun on the girls at work with. I'm trying to think outside of the box. Well, there's two. There's the smart car. There's the like the little smaller one, and then there's the mini. The mini has a SUV, which is a little bigger. You can't even call it a SUV, bro. It looks like one of those like cars you get in a cereal box. They're cool and shit, right? Like, girls look cute in it and all that. I just don't know if that shit's gonna, if she gets in an accident, that shit looks like it's gonna crumple like a soda can. Other thing she always talks about is an old Jaguar XJ type convertible, old school with the bug eyes. But to find a clean, find a clean one of those is gonna be hard. I got a 1980s Bronco. I'm keeping that. Exactly, Jacob. That's what I'm saying. Come on, invalidate this shit already. Stop teasing us. This is just me being protected, bro. I would put her in one of those like OG Hummers, the military grade joints. All right, we invalidated. Everybody that's watching, I'm removing this arrow because this is invalidated now, okay? I'm not trying to pull anything funny. Okay? Pattern never played out. Somebody came and said that they come in and 12 hours later they come back and the arrow's facing a different direction on the 5-minute chart. Like, yeah, bro, it's been 12 hours. I'm just trolling, bro. I only sound salty because I'm trolling. What's oil doing? Hmm. Well, we got the break out of that downtrend on silver. That falling wedge that we've been watching. But it's not very, I guess it's not horrible. Went up to the 800 and coming back to correct now, retest. But we need to get above 77.6. Or else we're just putting in a bear flag here.
Damn, fall coin just put in a 20% candle
To the top.
down, but
Ouch.
that's a 5-minute candle that just dropped 20%, but it was ripping on a nice W breakout.
Silent but deadly, huh? Yeah, just remember these patterns. The reason that I draw, I mean, I could just not draw them until the pattern is complete. But the reason that I draw them and we watch them play out is so that you can see if they invalidate or not, right? You can get used to how it looks when it builds. But no matter what the pattern is, I don't care if it's a bear flag or a W pattern or whatever it is, until it gets to the breakout, right? Until it completes its pattern, it doesn't exist, which means that any measured move above it also does not exist. Same with flags. Nah, you're good, bro. I just wanted to make sure it was clear.
Hey, can you hear me first of all?
Yes, sir.
So on this pattern that you're looking at right now, earlier today, we had the double top, right? And again, I'm just asking for the chart and I had a question about it. So the double top, I didn't, I drew it as an M, but I really wasn't happy because the wick was higher on the right, but the body was closed, whatever. So I was whatever drawing that.
Mm-hmm.
Then it came down, right, where it got the rebound, yeah, right there. So then it came back up, and I'm like, oh, it's probably just retesting the breakout of the M, right? So then it came up. So I pulled a fib from high to low, and I was thinking, something you said about it has to hit the 382 before, whatever. Otherwise, it's a continuation.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, I wonder, would it be realistic to say, all right, well, it frackled it fractaled into a bigger M. If it even plays out as an M.
Yep.
But because it went down, and instead of just retesting and pulling away, again, I took that measurement and it hit a little over the 382. So now from there, would I consider it just retesting, or would I draw the bigger M?
I always keep the more dominant pattern up, right? So if you were watching this from the beginning, and like you said, you watched this M and then it invalidated, just for people on YouTube, right? So it moved up. He was waiting for that type 2 entry. So he pulled his fib. Right? And they gave a good entry, but it invalidated that. Right? So then we had this high. When you pull your fib from that high, right, then that was your type 2. What he's saying is there a need to redraw the smaller M, right, if you've already got a larger one, and there isn't, right? This is the fractal that we were looking at before, the bull versus bear, the M versus the W that was forming down at the bottom. So the M that would stand now, larger, that hasn't played out yet, meaning that hasn't finished hasn't hit its neckline, would be right here. And for that, we need to break 706. Right. This M is complete because it's already hit. You're already at your breakout. You're trying to retest. The play out of that smaller M gives you the break of the larger. And that's basically what that looks like.
So in theory, if it doesn't hit at least the 382, again, if the M breaks the neckline, goes down, and then comes back, which we would call entry 4, but it goes back up beyond the neckline. If it doesn't hit at least the 382, it's just retesting and potentially a continuation.
Yeah, that's how I look at
If
it.
it does retrace more than the 382 or more, now you'll take that larger dominant pattern as whatever the measure move from that.
Yep. If I see the volume that I need, obviously, when we hit, right? It's like we still need to see that volume come in. But like I said, that's just future tripping, right? We'll worry about that when we get to it.
Yeah, I've been overthinking my patterns. I've been having I draw the bull and the bear, which is kind of messing me up because I'm a little worrying about every which way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it is the best way to do it, though. At least be aware of it, right? But that's when sentiment kicks in, right? When it's 50-50 and there's both patterns, like you got to have a good idea of what sentiment is, because that's usually the deciding factor. And the reason that you get the competing patterns is because you're getting both sides trying to adjust sentiment, right? Retail patterns are meant to make retail feel one way or the other. What part of it, DJ? Because you need to come up to 718 to invalidate this small M pattern here. We're really just looking at as a visible range. Right? Value area high, value area low.
In the course, are we going to get into reading market maker, as in, like the candles on the 1 minute, or do you even find a certain time frame to take, trying to read the fact that, stop and volume candle here, or, came in and pushed this way, because I've been on the 1 minute, I'm like looking to see, when, we're going from one momentum to the other. I'm trying to like, oh, well, we're pushing, the 5 and 13 through or whatever, and I'm like, whatever, I'm looking for market maker, I don't know, incentive or at least support in these things.
Try to stay
Is
on the
that
time
something
frame that I'm looking at, but I always start from higher time frames. Like if you want the 30-minute here, right? Our thesis earlier was that we had that vector gap above. Right? We saw bulls were trying to put in bullish structure, and we had that motivation above. But sitting on the 30 isn't going to let you know if that's right. It's down at the 5-minute or the 1 minute that we see the signs of the pivot. Right? It's in these ranges here where you see that you get to your third push and fall, your second push comes no higher, right? That's what lets you know whether that vector is going to get taken or not. So you have to be on all time frames, unless you're just scalping. If you're just scalping, it doesn't matter. If you're just scalping, you can just scalp on the 5-minute and find your vectors and get quick in and out. But I'm playing on all time frames for the most part. Like I usually have a midterm swing going at the same time. So like it's important to know when you're trading against macro direction. Desolation, what part of it were you saying was invalid? On a bigger note, what we're looking for is signs that market maker is finally coming after his targets. Right? We have a loss of control from market maker. His inventory cycle got split. Right? Price hasn't been allowed to go any higher, so we know we've had absorption from market maker at the top levels. But we haven't seen him exert the pressure that he needs to go after his targets yet. Which means tomorrow, going into midweek reversal, right? The chances of getting a midweek reversal are a lot less if market maker hasn't taken back control. Oh, The wall underneath us, huh? $65 mil on the book, pretty even between the asks and the bids. Volume's down a lot today. Volume's down 82% today. The book is pretty thick actually. Gonna take some big money here to push the book. Nah, you're good, bro. I was just asking in case you saw something I didn't see. I'm never gonna take it the wrong way. That's not true. Maybe if I'm like hungry or if I had my coffee, I might have taken it the wrong way. Just to be honest. Man, gotta have his coffee. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that either, DJ. Sometimes being on the sidelines, right? Sometimes no trade is the right trade. I know this isn't gonna sound believable to y'all, but there used to be a time where you didn't have to have Twitter open to trade. There's a time where you didn't have to refresh 3 times just to make sure some crazy shit didn't happen before you take a position. Look at the book, right? First, look at the orders that are coming in on the tape, right? Mostly zeros sprinkled in a bit. But look at the book, right? From 7.1 all the way down to 7.09, there's double-digit Bitcoin that have to be absorbed just to slip the book there. And then from like 7.10 to 7.14. So either we start to see some big orders here. There we go. It can't just be single Bitcoin. There needs to be doubles, triples. They're pulling some of the asks. We've got 323 Bitcoin at 708 and another 275 at 707. 650, 706, 180, 182. It's about 1,500 Bitcoin between 708 and 703, which is not insignificant. Unless they all get spoofed, I would suspect that we hold support somewhere in that range. Yeah, somebody's got a nice little grid set up. I don't know. I mean, if we look at point of control, right? Point of control is up at the top of that M. I don't know how much longer we're going to play around down here, though, before we swing it. And then you got a fair value gap, right? That takes you, well, basically takes you right to that measured move. Right, this is the next level of support you have volume-wise. Takes you right to that 800, right to that measured move. But you know what I say about ranges, right? Support is support until it's not. Resistance is resistance until it's not. So until this breaks, you have to assume it's going to hold. Right? Doesn't mean you have to take the trade, but you got to make the chart prove it. Yeah, there's a big fight at 70K. That's why you see that grid there. That's the Keep Hope Alive crew.
You don't think those are the same people that are going to run it up and take profits?
Yeah, they could very well just be wanting to play this range, right? They're not done accumulating. I mean, they're not done TPing yet. You got a bag, right? And you want to get rid of it at 72.7, or at least in the 72s, right? You tell yourself, I want to get rid of this bag anywhere in 72s. Then yeah, you create a range, right? You create an accumulation or a distribution range. The problem is that it takes a lot of money to pop back up. So what they tend to do is that they sell spot, open short, and then they buy spot at the lows to push price back up, right? Sell spot, open short, get a bunch of money, use that money to buy spot at the bottom, push price back up. You get to unload more of your coins above 72 like you wanted to, reopen short, rinse and repeat. But eventually they're done, right? Eventually they get rid of their bag. So what we look for is signs of exhaustion, signs of seller exhaustion, which means that you don't see the big buys anymore at the bottom like how you did here, right? Or here. You stop seeing that effort. But that grid that we saw could very well be exactly that, right? That could be that effort. Means they come up, fill up again, take it back up, release for one last time or whatever. There's just no way to know if it's the same people. But if we look at the volume profile, or if we look at the order profile, then we can look back at the last time that we caught that low, right? How did they do it last time? Come on. Don't really see a grid there, right? Which means they caught that bottom on market, which is the most effective way to do it if you want to push price up. Then again, caught on market. We do have a grid here. 800, 800, 700. Yeah, this is a big money grid. Pop back up. Couldn't get back above though. It's possible. It's possible. But the last 2 times that they effectively got price back up into that range, they did it with like really big market buys. Which we'll see here. Same thing we saw yesterday when the tape lit up crazy. Remember, it was like an 865 Bitcoin buy. The tape was going nuts yesterday.
I never seen the tape run like that.
Oh, it was
It was
bananas.
insane.
Since February 26th, you said? We'd have to come back here for that. So in that larger range, we're at the top. I'll take it from '26. Take it from here. So we just had a deviation out of the top. You would expect that price makes its way back down to point of control. If we take the larger range, if we take the entire thing, very similar, slightly off. So you've got 2 macro point of controls, right? And then if we take it from just the current swing, got our smaller range. Really doesn't hurt to drop multiples. It really lets you sort of see why things have played out the way they played out. And look at the stack of value area lows at the bottom that held price. And look at the stack of value area high. This is my favorite one though. I think that's the one that really tells the tale here. And I know I'm always going to the macro, but oh, do that. You see pretty clear there, right? We've been just hugging that point of control, which means if that slips, right, logic tells you that that next move would be that 52, 53. And then if you want to take the entire thing, then you're at value area high of the entire bull market. Right, so this price has literally been just ping-ponging between macro value area high and macro point of control. But for now, this is the value area low that we're concerned with. I think that's why, Kevin, what I was just showing, the fact that we're sitting on a macro point of control, right? It's like, we know it's a bear market and we know there's down coming, but we're literally in a range. And like I tell you guys, the only effective way to trade a range is no strategy. Like if you want to pull this all the way to the macro and just take it back to first principles, the only effective way to trade a range is to identify the range early and DCA the lows and sell the highs. Right? Anything else than that, you're going to get completely chopped up. But let's say if you started building shorts, right, with safe stop losses, but you started building shorts every time you got above that range, right, or started building longs every time you deviated, then you'd had a couple of good runs here. And our flags also count as ranges. Right? Remember your bull flags and your bear flags? They're literally just angled ranges. Right? So the same thing applies. So at the top of the ranges, right, and you trade along the bottom of the ranges. Me, I'm much more focused on time than price tool. So for me to be convinced that this is the bottom, we would literally have to go sideways for 4 months. But there would be a lot of things that didn't fit. Right? First of all, our max, our drawdowns. Right? Our bear markets have been 89%, 85%, and 77%. So, and there's diminished returns, as you could tell, right? Because I started at plus 90%, then 89, then 86.5, then 77. So let's keep that same sort of mentality and say, all right, let's shave another 7% off of it. Right? Instead of 77%, let's say just 70%. Or even more. Let's get extreme with it. Let's shave, let's take it all the way to 65%. Yeah, it does. It does. There's diminished returns, right? But we're trying to account for that. Right? So if it went from 89 to 85, that was like a 4% diminished return. But when it went from 85 to 87, right, then that's like a 8%. So let's take it even more. Let's just say it's 65%. 65% drop from the top will take us to 44K, which is my base case. Right? If this was the bottom, that would mean that during the worst bull market, during the worst bear market, altcoin bear market, And during the smallest return bull market, we're going to have the smallest diminished drop bear market. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. To go from 77% to 52% would be an extreme jump in diminished returns. Even 60% I'd be willing to entertain, and that's your 48. Right? And that would be 17% diminished return from bear market to bear market. In my opinion, we should have a worse bear market than we've ever had. And the reason I say that is because we don't have euphoria. Right? Back here when we topped out, everybody thought that 100K was on the way. Right? This whole trip down right here, there was mass euphoria. This is when I told everybody, look, this shit's going down, yo. We had the first blood diamond in Bitcoin history. This is when I first called 28K. But everybody and their mother was saying 100K. But that euphoria made it so every time we drop, we wouldn't just drop straight, right? People, every dip was a dip worth buying. We had small sort of capitulative, like we had a big capitulation there. We had one there. We had another one here, right? But when you look at this year, as soon as this shit started to go down, like it's like everybody was on board with the drop. Right? You don't see tons of euphoria. That's why we got the smallest relief rallies, right? We hit our bear targets on relief rallies on all of them, right? Not even our base cases. So it's just hard for me to think of all that and then consider the idea of having a way smaller than usual retracement. Now, there was plenty of people to sell. I mean, selling wasn't the issue, right? People have found plenty of Bitcoin to sell. But there wasn't a lot of hope, right? Where they're just buying the dip, buying the dip, buying the dip. We'll see. That's my thesis, and until it's disproved by the chart, then I've got to stick to it, right? It's very mechanical. 12-point checklist for when we're going to hit bottom, right? We had an 11-point checklist for when we hit top to help us get out safely. Yeah, I don't blame them, bro. YouTube is kind of crazy out there. It's just hard for me to look away and not see that this is literally exactly what we just did on our last accumulation. Right? We accumulated around point of control. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Hold on. Take the whole thing. Gonna pull the whole thing. Anyways, we accumulated around point of control. We put in one high. Let's just run the squiggle. We put in one high. Second high. I rejected off. So either we are going to hold that downtrend, which is our bear market downtrend, right? This is our macro bear market downtrend that we're up against right now. Either we're going to pop that and go after that fair value gap. That's the least probable in my opinion. Or we're going to reject again and take out the level. Right? If we look at how long it took from bottom to when we rejected, it's 54 days. And we're sitting at what now? 61 days. Right, it's taking a little longer. I gotta make sure that tomorrow's class is ready. Go over all the materials so I'm not scrambling tomorrow to get everything together. Yeah, I think so too, Nick. I think so too. Let me take this off. I'll just turn the vectors on the chart where you can watch them clear. There we go. Those blue zones are your vectors. Liquidity. Man, I'm trying to be like you, Kevin. How are we gonna figure this out? Worst case scenario is drawn out sideways. Yeah, that's like, that's what I don't want. I mean, we're in school, so it's cool. Like I said, I started school at this time for a reason. This is usually like the deadest sort of zone out of all of them, but it still sucks to sit through. All right, let me go grab my food, y'all. I'm gonna eat real quick, and then I'm gonna come back. I'll pop back on, but I'm gonna do some research when I get back on. Make sure everything's straight for tomorrow. Exactly, H. I'm gonna hit that food with my alt attack. Yeah, we're at day 61 in this range right now. But to be fair, we did get like World War III plopped on our lap in the middle of all this shit, so I guess we can expect a little bit of a deviation, yeah. I'll be honest with you. I'm surprised that we managed to hold up. It's actually been pretty impressive. All right, family. I'll be back.
Hey, Marjorie, can you look at the bubble chat for 1 second?